Hey guys, so as I was grooming myself, I had a thought since the last video I made, which was only a few hours ago. There was a portion of the video where I was talking about, and this was a big part of the video, which was like, it's I find that it's a good thing to follow your interest and to pursue the thing that brings joy to you and that you have a genuine curiosity about. And I still stand firmly by that statement. But I wanted to be even go into it a little bit more and be more specific about it because, when I look at my life as an individual, growing up, when I was little growing up, I always had interest in art. I was always interested in instruments and music and drawing and painting and loved going to museums. I was really big into like Tim Burton when I was a kid, so I always loved drawing and monsters and all that kind of stuff. And so that being creative was always a big interest of mine. But honestly, I never had a big interest in being an actor. When I was really little, it was something that I kind of fell into because there was I think like a kid at my school whose I think mother was an agent for like print work for kids, like which is like like when you go to the Gap or you go to Walmart or like these kinds of stores and there's pictures of kids wearing the I'm hitting the table, wearing the clothing brand that they're selling. So like that kind of stuff. And that's kind of how I actually got into acting. Was this mom was like, "Oh, hey, I work at this agency, and we as she approached my parents, we think that your son would be really good for some stuff, and he'll be able to make some money, and it goes into an account for him, and you don't touch it until he's an adult, and blah 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 blah." And it just seemed kind of like a sweet deal. And so my parents kind of facilitated it, and I gave it a shot. And at first it was something that was like I didn't mind doing. I had fun with it. But actually, and I've always been like this, I really have this thing with clothing. Like if clothing is really itchy or odd feeling or stiff, it just I mean, obviously I'm an adult now. I don't cry about it anymore, but when I was a kid I used to freak out about it. Like it used to just almost like nails on a chalkboard for me, which is pretty interesting. I'm sure other people have that thing too. So I've always been really sensitive to clothing. Even like when I would go to a store to try on clothes as a kid, I'd have to have them cut off the tags because the tag touching my back would like drive me up a wall. And I don't know why that doesn't happen anymore, but just when I was a kid, it was like that for me. So anyways, I kind of fell out of the whole, kind of print ad thing because the whole thing is based around trying on different types of clothes and wearing stuff. And, most of the time it was just like stuff I really did not enjoy wearing. So we stopped doing it. And then I got into this acting class because there was an actress named Marnie Cooper who was in Friday Night Lights, and she was teaching an acting class in Houston, and I started doing that with her. And I had fun kind of performing in that sense of being on camera and whatnot, and kind of playing characters. And it's interesting how sometimes you kind of fall into things in life and things kind of happen without you really realizing it's happening. Like when I was a kid, me and my dad, or a whole family, but really me, my dad, and my brother, we loved going to the movies. And so we would go to the movies all the time. And I recall that, when I would leave the movie, I was like always pretending to be whatever character I had just watched. Like I really liked pretending to be characters and other people. And I used to like to dress up like other people. And so I kind of always had that thing where I liked playing characters, and that was just natural. And, for me, it was never a consideration like, oh, I want to be an actor because I like doing that. That's just something I like to do. And it just so happens that being an actor, you get to do that as a profession. So, actually looking back at it now, it's like all this stuff really kind of fell into place for me, which is really cool. But anyways, my point was that like, I didn't always have this consideration and this gratitude for being an actor. There was a point in my life when I was young where I kind of resented it because you know, a whole lot of my life had been dedicated to it, and I had dedicated a whole lot of my life to it. And I kind of sometimes it's acting, amongst many other professions, is a really tough one. There's a lot of uh, scrutiny and criticism that comes along with it, and the auditioning process can be very, very draining, and I hate to be dramatic, but somewhat soul crushing. And it's like when you try and try and try, and you don't, these the wins are way smaller than all the perceived losses. It can be very draining sometimes. So, anyways, just growing up experiencing that, it was hard, and sometimes I hated doing it. But anyways, my point is, with that, because everyone's life is structured differently. Every individual has a different life, and they're doing different things. And um, sometimes it seems like maybe you are involved in something that uh, you're losing interest in, or you're asking yourself, like, well, where is this going, or why am I doing this? And that's what I had felt at certain points in my life, being an actor, pursuing that as a career. And there were points in time where it became about the money, um, especially like once I started working and being on Teen Wolf, for example. I started making a pretty good amount of money, uh, considerably speaking, for someone my age. I was, I think, like 16. And so, and I never really considered it before that, for a multitude of reasons. But all of a sudden, it kind of became about money, and like, and again, not that money is bad, or not that it shouldn't be a consideration, but it started to not be about being creative and pursuing something and getting good at it because you want to be good at it, or because I wanted to be good at it. And that's when things started to get kind of like not enjoyable anymore. And so, anyways, I was at a talk a year or two ago, and the speaker said something that kind of really resonated with me, which was, um, and this is to say that it's to I want to say as well that it is important to love what you do. But he was making the case that, in life, sometimes it's just as important to be able to uh, love what you do as it is to do what you love. And what I mean by that, and what he meant by that, was sometimes in life you can just, for whatever the reason is, end up in a situation, like, for whatever the reason is, you're working at a video game store. Maybe that was like the closest place to your house that was, accepting new employees, and you don't have a car right now, so you have to walk, and so that it was convenient for you, and you need the money because of this reason or whatever, and whatever the reasons are. And so that's just where you've ended up at this point in time. And I thought it was a really great advice that, like, we as individuals, as people, have the ability to also create enthusiasm and create interest. Like, you can choose to be really invested and wanting to get better at anything, and even if it's simple. And so I guess my point is that, like, and to just be very specific and speak from my own experience, it's like, I always wanted to play music. I always wanted to do art. I always wanted to, quote unquote, be an artist, pursue art in a broad sense. And so, even though there was many times where acting wasn't always the thing that I really enjoyed the most, like, I would have rather sometimes been at home writing songs, or drawing, or doing other things. But, like, it put me in the room with lots of people who and in the industry that is connected to all these other things, and other people that I wanted to know and be a part of. I've met so many amazing and great musicians through being an actor. I've met so many cool artists and got to do a bunch of cool stuff as an artist because of being an actor, and because of getting successful at that. And that's not to say that I couldn't have done it without being an actor. It's just that's just what happened, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't regret the time that I spent being an actor and getting good at it, because uh, it put me exactly where I am. And the other thing I would say is like, sorry, I'm touching my face because it's all soft right now. Um, you know, it's like, I just had a brain fart. It was such a good point. It was so good. Um, I can hear my wife outside talking now. I'm just distracted by listening to her talk. I wonder what she's doing. Um, she's probably making a video or something too. That's so funny. Um, right. Okay, I got it. So it doesn't always seem like it. And again, I'll reel back and just speak for myself because I don't want to evaluate for other people. But I recognize looking back on my life, in every moment, whether good or bad, I've always had a choice of to be doing what I'm doing or not doing what I'm doing. There were many times where, like I said, I was going on an audition, really nervous and really scared and afraid that I'm gonna fail or not do well, and I was just like, I just want to stay home and I just want to draw. I just wanna like play guitar and just be in my room and be alone, because that sounded way more comforting and way more safe and also fun than going and doing an audition, for example. And looking back now, I always had a choice. I could have said, hey, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do this. I absolutely refuse to do it. Even at the age that I was at. And, my parents are good parents, so I'm not, not everyone has understanding parents. Not everyone has parents. And so everyone's situation is different. For me, I could have said to my parents, like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't want to do it. I'm sure they would have been upset, and I'm sure there would have been issues with it, and maybe even disappointment because they really believed and believe in me as an actor, and I'm sure it would have upset them if I would have done that, but it doesn't matter. I still could have, and I would have just had, if I did it, I would have had to just deal with the consequences. And there have been times where I have said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I have had to deal with the consequences, with the disappointment, with the, people around me being upset and being like, well, why? You're so good. Why would you give it up? And this, and that. And it's like, I just want to focus on other things. And for example, like right before I booked Teen Wolf, before I ended up being Liam Dunbar on Teen Wolf, I said to my parents, and this was like, I think I was like the end of freshman year of high school. I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sick of it. I want to be in a band. And that was the example I was using earlier of like, that is the truth that is a truth for me, that I've always wanted to be in a band and I've always wanted to make music, and that's something I just love doing. And that's what I did. And I had some friends from school, and we were playing music all the time and writing songs. And in my mind, I had decided I'm not doing acting anymore. And it's funny, and I'm not gonna say that I understand how the flow and the energies of the universe always work, but it could have just been a coincidence, impeccable timing, or something about me making that decision of letting it go, letting the whole acting thing go. I got a call to come in an audition for Liam on Teen Wolf like a week or two later, and it was, and I had already auditioned for Jeff Davis and all the producers, and so I had a really good relationship with them, and I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll go in and I'll audition, because I really like them and I have a good feeling about it, and I did, and I booked it right then and there, that day, one audition, and I have no regrets about going back on what I said about I'm not acting anymore. I'm glad I went in and I'm glad I did it. And I think that's the thing of like, I guess maybe the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes in life you just end up where you end up for whatever the reason, but you always do have a choice no matter where you're at to be there or to go somewhere else. And it can be very scary to start over or to jump into the unknown, so to speak. But if it's really worth it to you, and there's something that you really want to do that you're not doing, it's there's no reason to not do it. Also, another thing too, and this is something because I've always been such an extremist. Um, you don't have to abandon everything that you're doing and what your life is in the moment for something else. Like, and that's something it's taken me time to really understand that. Like, I think it's good to have a certain amount of interest. That way you're not so spread thin that you aren't able to really become good at whatever it is you're trying to become good at. Um, but like, I used to think like, okay, if I want to be a musician, I have to quit being an actor. Or if I want to be an actor, I can't be a musician. It's like one or the other. And, I do think there is something to say about like, you only have a limited amount of time each day to put into things. And so that's what I was just saying a moment ago. If you have like 20 things you're trying to do, that might be a little bit too steep of a gradient, or there might be too much to try to achieve in too short of amount of time. So like really, for me, what's worked is picking those couple of things that like I really really care about, and putting time into those things, and kind of also letting them all support each other, because what makes each person an individual is partially is their interests and what they choose to spend their time doing, and the accumulation of those different things is a big part of a person's individuality, their personality, and what makes them unique. And it's like for me, I love movies and acting. I love cartoons. I love tattoos. I love like heavy metal music and country music, and uh, I like martial arts, and I like training, and I love cheeseburgers. And it's there's other people out there that like all the same stuff as me, but um, all of those things, all of my interests, they're a big part of who I am, and they make up what I spend my time doing and being interested in and thinking about and creating on. And that's fantastic. And everyone has those accumulations of things, even if it's just in your mind and it's just stuff you think about. Um, so yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to like really build on that, because I felt like I left a lot unsaid there with the whole, you know, I always did what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be clear, because I think I've done interviews before where I've discussed some of my reservations with being an actor and my struggle with it, and I want to be clear that and I didn't always have this consideration, especially when I was younger. But looking back on it now, I'm like, oh shit, I always chose to be where I was and do what I was doing, and I could have always chose something different if I wanted to. And there were times when I did, and then I also chose to go back and to keep pushing forward on acting, because it was worth it to me. It is worth it to me. I'm still an actor. I'm still a writer. I'm still a musician. I'm still an artist. I still do all of these things, and I just put the time into getting better at them, and use all that stuff to fuel the path that I'm on, and keep my enthusiasm and my interest and my creativity as high as possible. Anyways, I hope that again resonates with you guys, and I hope that me going into it a little bit more might give some more light on that, and also some reality on me as an individual and my backstory. I guess quote unquote like behind the scenes of being an actor and being a I guess you could say a public person. Um, but anyways, yeah, that's it. I really enjoy doing this, and I really hope that this is productive for the viewers watching, and I really appreciate you guys. So have a great one, and until next time.